So do come in. Hopefully we'll have enough space for everyone. We actually have our registration lists over there at the front. So if you, yeah, we maybe can either move over, I think maybe we can like there, just in case. And out of automatic sources of Anyways, thanks everyone for coming. We'll get started with this, the second talk of the STEM week. So take it away.
It is my pleasure to introduce you Engineer Alejandro. Alejandro is a biotechnology engineering major, the PhD in applied biotechnology and food and economics by Tecnológico de Monterrey. In 2016, Alejandro created the company Green to create highly nutritious food with a low environmental impact. Green uses crickets to evolve foods with the fiber and protein of these edible crickets. It is the first company in Mexico to create farms and ingredients with edible insects. Alex works with has created a social impact by forming a network of 20 families of producers of edible crickets in vulnerable communities. Thanks to the farm, producers can generate an income 6 times bigger than the dairy industry and give new generations a new option for productivity. As a supplier of cricket's flour, Alex has collaborated in the development of over 25 brands of products such as Santena, Conchance, and Starbucks. Please welcome him.
Thank you so much, and thanks for coming as well. Yes, I am co-founder of Grium, where we produce maximum nutrition with minimal environmental impact. And can you go to the next slide? Well, today we have been featured in different media, and some of our clients have already been in TV shows like Shark Tank. When we were talking about crickets, I already saw some of your faces very surprised. Imagine this back in 2016 when we were starting, we had comments about everything like, "You're crazy, no one's gonna ever eat crickets, that's not a great idea." But mostly, I have to be honest, we were very happy to have comments like, "That's an excellent innovation. How did you get this very innovative idea?" It must be how to produce crickets. So the innovation is in your technology. Or maybe some people were telling us, well, that's a very innovative product because there were no other companies at the time offering edible crickets for the industrial food system. But what if I tell you that after more than 6 years of co-founding Radium and with the experience that I've gathered as an entrepreneur, I can now tell you that the innovation of Radium is not in the product, it's not in the idea, it's not in the technology we use, but it's more in our purpose. So let me tell you more about this. The path of entrepreneurship can feel a bit lonely sometimes. When we were starting, it was only my co-founder, Francisco, and we were in a desk that my father let us use to start, but we sat there the first day, we didn't know what to do at all. So we knew and we needed help. So we rose our hands and we asked our university for their incubation and acceleration programs. And this was because I was feeling lonely in my entrepreneurship path, but I was not lonely in one thing. And we go to the next slide. So you can picture me before being a PhD student in biotechnology applied in food and nutrigenomics, as this short, chubby guy who was bullied in primary school. Well, not so extreme, but yes, enough for me to have co-founded Radium and being in the middle of this PhD. But unfortunately, when I was in the last semester of my major, I realized that I was not alone in this. 90 million Mexicans are overweight. And while not everyone was impacted psychologically or emotionally like I was, in terms of health, diabetes and hypertension are top 3 causes of deaths in the country. So I was with Francisco and we knew we wanted to create a solution in this because also we were at tech at that time and all we could eat was like the products we could find in the convenience store, in the Oxxo store, or in the tiendita, as we call it in Mexico, which are cookies, tortillas or corn snacks, but not enough food with protein. So we were like fed up of tuna cans, trying to get the proper nutritional balance. We were like, this is not right, we should do something about it. So we didn't know where to start, but we were very lucky because at that time we were doing our social service by installing urban farms in communities near Querétaro. But we failed miserably. All of our farms ended up abandoned. But one of these farms became infested with grasshoppers. So the producer told us, well, these guys arrived by themselves. We should probably do something with them, but it's easier for us if we don't see the legs or the antenna while we are eating them. The idea was so good, in fact. By that time, the Food and Agriculture Organization had already published a report about edible crickets as a means for food and feed security in the next decades. And this is because it addresses a very stressful problem for us, which is that alternative proteins that are sustainable and do not compromise our ecosystems are really urgent. The conventional livestock industry is one of the main causes of deforestation and greenhouse gas emissions and water use. And we have like really less than 2 decades to reverse this and to create a food system that is regenerative and sustainable. However, even when this is like super urgent for us to address, it's not happening. Like alternative proteins or sustainable proteins are not an ingredient that we can find easily in the convenient food that we eat every day, or not even like meat substitutes that while they are getting to market, it's not something like super common to eat for us. So the alternative that the Food and Agriculture Organization is proposing is crickets and other edible insects because they are naturally sustainable. Producing the same amount of protein with crickets than with cows requires only 4% of the natural resources. So let me put this in perspective. That is, in a cricket farm from Grillium, we can produce with 4 liters of water. So for this, the same amount of protein that will require that will be required by a cow with 5,000 liters of water. So the difference is huge. And a cricket farm from Grillium is just 300 square meters. So that's about the size of a tennis court or a tennis field, compared to 750 square meters for the same amount of protein produced by conventional livestock. That would be like the size of 2 soccer fields. Moreover, in the Nature journal, the scientific journal Nature, which is like a very renowned journal in terms of biology, sustainability, and food, the last year, in 2022, there was this scientific report published in which the scientists were comparing what will happen if we substitute our conventional diet with a vegan diet or an alternative protein diet, mainly substituting meat with insects. So the range of saving greenhouse gas emissions or global climate change potential, water use and land use was between 75% and 80%. 75% was when we were substituting our diet with a vegan style diet, and 80% was when we were substituting our diet with insects. Both are great, so it's a great compliment for us, and we have now more options to shift our diet in order to change the impact of what we are eating and our food. The reason why crickets are so sustainable is because if you picture the food chain, like that's something we learned in elementary school, crickets are in 2 parts of the chain, or in 2 leagues of the chain. They are both concentrating all the nitrogen that plants and photosynthetic organisms are capturing from land into protein that we can easily assimilate and with a high quality. And at the end of the chain, they are decomposing organisms, which means they make this chain circular. They bring like all the decomposing biomass in the planet back into the food system and back into land for plants or other animals to use. The problem is that when we were industrializing foods, we left insects out, even when it was something that we were used to eat in pre-Hispanic 4 millennia as humans. During the industrialization process of food, insects were left out. So our food chain that took millions of years to establish towards an equilibrium was completely broken because also humans represent the highest demanding living being in terms of natural resources. So it only makes sense to bring crickets or other insects back into our food chain just to respect the natural food chain equilibrium that was created after millions of years of evolution. But not only that, thank you. Crickets are like a nutrition bomb. 60% of the dry weight of crickets is represented by proteins. And it's not only proteins. These proteins are conformed by amino acids, which are like tiny pearls that create a chain. But these type of amino acids are different between each other and have different functions. Moreover, some of these amino acids are not being synthesized in our body, which means that we have to eat them and get them from our diet. Those are called essential amino acids. There are 9 essential amino acids, and it is crucial for us to eat them every day. Crickets in the protein chain or in the protein structure and configurations have these 9 essential amino acids in just the right amount, where if by getting a portion of 30 grams of insects in your food, you have all the amino acids that you need. But don't worry, we don't need to eat like a handful of crickets with the legs or the antenna. We can process them and introduce them into conventional foods like these cookies to evolve their nutritional content. So imagine if we could change all the junk food that we can find in any dieta or in any also into these super healthy options that are already eaten a lot in Mexico. In fact, 1/3 of the calories we eat as a society in Mexico come from this type of foods. So the problem is, well, right now it's not nutritionally balanced, but introducing crickets allow us to increase the protein content by 3 times, to double the fiber content of these products and reduce the sugar content while leaving all the experience of eating these foods intact. We can still enjoy a cookie, enjoy a pastry. That was my dream when I was a kid and being bullied. Like I was like, but I love gancitos. It would be awesome, nutritious. So now it can happen with crickets. So of course, I have synthesized all the problem here. At that time, we didn't have like this deep knowledge of the problem, but we could understand it, and we came up with this idea of growing crickets to produce the green cricket flour, which is a B2B ingredient. It's sold by bulk to other companies, giving them the opportunity to create different products, healthy products, and sustainable products. This took us a while. And I was telling you at the beginning that we were part of acceleration programs or incubation programs from our university and different organizations like Endeavor, like New Ventures, like Provisional Mexico. And it was a great experience because in these programs you get to know very influential people or like C-level executives from companies like Nestle in sessions that are called mentorship sessions. So these sessions are you sit in front an influential person or a person with a lot of experience, and you tell them about the problems you're facing towards placing your solution on the market or to solve something about your value chain or whatever. During all the sessions that we were having at the beginning, all the mentors were like, well, it's great, like you have an idea about crickets, about turning food into nutritious options, but most of them didn't have like the clear path they should take. So we were taking advices that some of them were pointing, you should do this, like animal nutrition, or you should develop an end product. Every advice was very, very different. and it was not working very well. But we noticed that at the beginning of every mentorship session, all the mentors were like, okay, I understand that you want to do something with crickets, that's great, but what is your purpose? So what's your organization about? Why are you doing this? What's behind all of this? And we didn't have it clear. Every time we were answering something different, until one mentor told us, okay, you know what, before we move on, you should have a session between your team and establish a clear purpose. So in this clear purpose, we were all talking about, hey, so my purpose in life is to turn food into a nutritious option. Another business partner we had, Christina, was more about sustainability. So we were struggling because our personal purposes were not exactly the same. Until we understood that we were creating a purpose that was not our personal purpose, but a purpose for an institution, a company that was going to be able to collaborate with small producers, with governments, with other companies, and a lot of employees to create a positive change in society. So we came up with this. Our purpose is to give everyone a nutritious option of their favorite food products at any time. So every word is there for a reason. For example, at any time means that our solutions have to be convenient. So that if anyone is at the farthest community of Querétaro or away from an urban spot, they could have a nutritious option of their food. Or if you are in a rush in the city and you are working a lot and you only can have food like grab and go, you should have the nutritious option, even if you're in a hurry or you have like a very chaotic lifestyle. And then it's for everyone. So that means that in the future, like everyone could have access to our solution, and it's important for us to make it sustainable, because otherwise there's not gonna be enough resources for us to scale up. Well, when we came up with this, it seemed like, well, it's super ambitious. It's never gonna happen. But when you realize that it's not a personal purpose, it's not something that I'm going to do myself as a co-founder or any of my co-founders is going to do. It is something that is gonna be set up there for an institution that will likely be there for many, many years, and it will have to be able to inspire allies, corporations, governments, and basically any stakeholder involved in the institution to work towards this path. So we came up of this session and we were like this. This is Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of Caribbean. I hope you have seen this movie. But it's only you say it's a compass. It's only a compass that seems to be broken because it doesn't point towards the north. It points towards what you want the most. So we had this phase because when we were sitting in any mentorship program or when we are sitting in front of a client now, our first phrase is, okay, our purpose is for everyone to have a nutritious option of their favorite food products at any time. So only with that phrase, they understand what the meeting is about and what we are working towards. And then all the mentorship advices are super clear because they are always going to point you towards that. Taking decisions becomes like really, really easy. So that's how our story started. We started gathering a lot of advice, and we understood that we had to create some innovations in technology. Let me tell you how we did this. Thank you. So we couldn't walk around gathering crickets from like harvesting wild crickets from the fields. We needed to farm crickets in a sustainable way and outdoor, like, yeah, of course, a self-sustainable way. We didn't know how. We needed to do a lot of research, and we were lucky to have the opportunity to travel around the world to 5 different countries, understanding which were the means of production of crickets that were existing. And we realized there were two visions of how crickets could be farmed. The first vision was like in a super technologically advanced system where robotized arms were feeding the crickets, and it was done in industrial warehouses. Really, really cool in terms of automation and scaling up. But the capex, the initial investment we needed to establish a farm like this was super, super high. On the other hand, in countries like Thailand, they farm crickets in a very traditional way, where a lot of people is needed to operate a small farm, and it's hard to scale. But the capex is really, really low. And there was a gap, a huge gap between these two models. But we understood that if we wanted this to be an accessible option for everyone, it couldn't be this model, but it's also for everyone. So we cannot depend on a model that can't scale. There was a sweet spot right in the middle, and that's where we developed our technology. We took the best parts of both worlds and created our system, which is a low capex system that is easy to scale because it works automated and it can be easily optimized. You don't need a lot of land, you don't need a lot of space, and the system itself is accessible. So with this product, we made a prototype of this system, and we presented it to different organizations. And the local government of Guanajuato was really interested in this option for productivity for small farmers. And with their support, we were able to extend our technology to a network of 25 families of sharecroppers to whom we empower with this technology. We give all the onboarding on how to use it. And even better, they understood our purpose and they started creating innovation of their own. So we started with the system and 2 months after they were employing it and working on it, they started coming with innovations like, hey, the watering system is not working well. Sometimes it drips and crickets start to drown. We did this. And that innovation was translated to the rest of the farms and production starting to get more optimal. For us, that was amazing because in a very short time, we were growing our production yield very fast, and it was done by the sharecroppers who were working there and had a clear understanding on why we were doing that. So with the help of our sharecroppers, we were able to grow from only 2 brands using edible crickets in 2019 to more than 25 brands using edible crickets to evolve their food products with our ingredients that are already being sold in HEB, in some specialty stores, and little by little bringing this solution to more people. So we have been able to collaborate with every entrepreneur behind these solutions. And again, it has become very easy when we realize that putting our purpose and the why behind Grilium first lets other entrepreneurs and collaborators guide their decisions. But it doesn't stop there, because the path is never like straight upwards. Like your company seems to be growing, but if you draw a graphical line of how your company is growing, it's never linear or exponential. It's a messy line that tends to go upwards, but sometimes you're going down, sometimes things are not working as you planned. And that's what happened to us during the pandemic years. During the pandemic years, people was not understanding exactly why should we eat insects like protein. Okay, that's good, but what's the benefit for us? And so that's how science brought us back, like was calling us back. There needed to be more research behind the health aspects of eating insects. So in Tecnológico de Monterrey, there is a lab called Biofoods Lab. And in this lab, we were supplying cricket flour for different research purposes. For example, there was a student creating like edible food, like edible pins for 3D printing. We could 3D print food that is nutritious, that can also be like specific for one person, create amazing experiences, like a dish where in a restaurant they literally print the Disney castle for a kid to eat their greens and their protein. And it was super fun for the kids, and everyone was happy. And so that was like really, really interesting. And in terms of health, Master Alejandro was working in this that was published actually this year. He created tortillas. That's the base of our diet in Mexico. But it turns out that when you eat the amount of tortillas that we eat in Mexico, since it's mostly starch and carbohydrates, it contributes to raise the sugar levels in your bloodstream. So in a country where diabetes is a huge problem, that also represents a huge problem. So what Alejandro was researching was what would happen if you replaced just a fraction of the corn that was used in these tortillas with cricket flour. So she made different treatments, and at the end result was that by only substituting 7.5% of the corn in the tortillas, there was a phenomenon happening, which was that the oils in the cricket were creating a structure with the starch in the corn. This is a complex called a lipid starch complex that is classified as a type 5 dietary fiber. Let me put this simple. What happens is that the oil creates an envelope around the starch, and it cannot be easily digested, which at the end, it becomes like a fiber that is good for your gut, but it won't get in your bloodstream. The end result of this is that the sugar levels in the bloodstream of healthy adults eating cricket and rich tortillas was reduced by 20%, which is huge, and it can be like a radical innovation. And that's what we've been learning in the last years of our accelerating programs. We took recently a session with a very important innovation firm in Mexico, and we learned this. There are three types of innovation that are generally accepted, which is the first one is a radical innovation. This radical innovation changes, it's something that creates a clear differentiation in your product, and it will change how you sell your brand in the whole scope of the market. So that would be like when we were developing our technology and found that there was a gap between like super expensive farms and not very expensive farms, we started getting an innovative position in the market by being the guys that were filling that gap in the middle. So Green was like a new type of farm in the market. That was a radical innovation. Then there is an incremental innovation, where you take something that already exists and you just start optimizing or adding new features. That's what our farmers do when they realize that they need to improve the watering system or the feed or the habitat where the crickets grow. That's what they do. They create an incremental innovation, and then we have been able with this innovation to reduce costs of producing crickets by 50% in only 3 years. And we will be doing that for the next decade, and crickets will be cricket protein will be something very, very accessible for any type of lifestyle. And then at the end, you have the disruptive innovation. The disruptive innovation changes an entire market. It's not only a brand inside the market, the entire market changes. And we've seen this happening with internet, and it is now happening with artificial intelligence. Everything changes when this innovation happens. Even for us, things are changing because the way we are developing new foods is powered now by artificial intelligence. So we downloaded the API of OpenAI, and now we put all the scientific information that we have about our ingredients, other ingredients that we want to use for a new food product, and we just ask the artificial intelligence, hey, with this information, can you create a formula for some protein-rich cookies using the green cricket flour? So it automatically creates a formula and tells you how to produce it and to industrialize it. And now we go with that information and create a value chain and launch this to the market. So that's what a disruptive innovation does. But at the end of the session with this mentor, we were talking a lot of our purpose. Like we were super passionate about our purpose. And we came to realize there is a fourth type of innovation, which we call the sustainable innovation. The sustainable innovation is not in your technology. It is not in the type of products that you are developing, and it is not in the way you are addressing the market. The sustainable innovation is in your purpose. It is an innovation that it is capable of inspiring collaborators, employees, suppliers, clients, and even the general audience towards creating a systemic positive change for the planet and for society. This is an innovation that has allowed us to be able to use the other types of innovation. And it is the innovation that is going to be able to sustain the operation of Green or whatever project we decide to create from Green for many, many years. Because even when there is a disruptive technology entering into the market, since the base of our startup is not in the technology, it's not in the go-to-market strategy, but it's in the purpose, then we can understand how can we take advantage of the different dynamics in the market to be able to withstand whatever is coming. And that's the main point of this topic. Entrepreneurship, creating a startup is a great means to create social impact. And I really hope that many of you that are listening to this talk, at some point of your life, will decide to start your own company or project, or even do some entrepreneurship within the industries or the companies that you join in the future. I would like you to have this in mind, because we really need high impact startups and products and companies to shift our future towards a positive future where everyone can have the chance to live healthy and be happy and live a sustainable life for him or she and the future generations. So thank you very much, and we can continue.
For this topic, here are some presents from the University campus
Thank you so much.
and a diploma for you for the companies. A student of Rosales Place.
Okay, everyone, so we have a break for lunch and we are reconvening again at 1800 for the third talk, which is about amphibian conservation in Puebla.
Before that, I don't know if anyone, like, we can spend 10 minutes of.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So we'll read the questions and then are you sticking around a little longer or after lunch?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll go to the question round.
I still works later. It's when you ask about creating flower, anything that it's like. Part of the idea of eating. And that as it. So we mentioned one of the things that you said at first, that she would, of the idea of them not having the updates with the legs, it's easier for them to, like, she doesn't have the image or she doesn't imagine that she's eating cookies slowly. What other strategies that we have?
So you have the answer right there. It's not that your opinion is good, it's also that it has been scientifically studied. So since it's urgent for us to accept these alternative proteins, scientists have studied different strategies to increase acceptance and shift the perception of consumers in favor for the rest of their lives, not for only one consumption moment. So they did many different strategies, but the one that worked best was creating like delicious experiences where the dish that you are gonna be eating with crickets looks good, it smells good, the environment is amazing, and then you try it and you like it. Only one good tasting experience is enough to shift consumers' perception towards acceptance for the rest of their life. So we are basing our strategy in that fact, on that fact. So what we are doing this year is we are creating a lot of collaborations with chefs and restaurants. There will be one in March 15 in Querétaro, where we create pop-up stores in restaurants while they give like a very delicious dish using our ingredients. And the idea of this is to create a community of consumers that have already tried crickets in a very positive way, and to create also a word of mouth phenomenon where they will start talking about this, and we will be creating more events and pop-up tasting moments. So little by little, consumers are gonna be accepting this solution. It only takes one good tasting moment.
So first, really on the project, and I think it's really interesting. And my question is, you said that you maybe will be in Brena on the legs, but what about the skeleton? Because I mean, I don't know. I know that it's made of chitin, but I don't know if the body can cause it. So do you remove it or do you stay there?
So we do not remove like the antenna and legs. It gets all grinded into our ingredients. And yes, crickets are rich in chitin from the exoskeleton. Chitin is a nitrogenated carbohydrate. Some people think it's a protein, but it's actually not. It's more a carbohydrate that is a dietary fiber. It is also present in shrimp or in some mushroom. And it cannot be digested by our own cells, but the microbiome in your gut is able to digest it. So it has also been studied, like the safety of eating chitin. Of course, like you cannot eat 5 kilograms of chitin in a day, but that won't happen. But when you eat like 30 grams of cricket daily, your microbiome in the gut starts improving. So more beneficial bacteria are growing, and the bacteria that will make you sick, the population of bacteria that will make you sick start getting low. So chitin is good for that, and that's why we leave it there, and it only represents like 5% of the whole biomass in crickets. It's not a huge amount.
For example, when using the cricket flour in which there are processed with heat, you know if the protein or other components of the cricket will be altered by some of the treatments that the food product will get.
Yes, that's something that you sometimes want to happen while it's controlled. So what heat does is that the energy that is applied to the food will change how the molecules in your food are configured. No? So let's say we have a protein that is, I will use this as an example. So we have a protein that has this shape. But then you apply heat and it becomes like this. And then if you keep applying heat, you will burn it. And now it won't be edible. But if you apply just like 100 degrees, something enough to change the configuration to let it be like this, but not like completely burnt, this protein will behave differently. And sometimes it helps to create like foams or to create gels, and then you can create different types of food. So what we do now is that we apply just the right amount of heat to the cricket protein to let it be like this. And now when it's in this form, it can create gels. And when you can create gels, you can introduce it to meat analogs that resembling the shape of a meat. And it helps to like increase the tasting experience because it actually feels like meat in your mouth. So that's what we do with heat when we apply heat in food. Yes.
Yeah.
So I really like your business. And I understand that you want it to be available for every public, but by what I understand, it's not like I can go and buy a bag of it yet, right? Like in every convenience store, you're just suppliers for other entrepreneurs. So is it gonna be a point where it's gonna be also sold like in small quantities, or are you gonna create your own line of products so that?
Yeah, so you won't, maybe by the end of this year, you will be able to find it like with the Region brand in a consumer packaged good that you can find in any retail. But at the moment, to some of the entrepreneurs that we sell the cricket flour, we let them just like repack it with their own brand, and you can already buy it by like if you look for One Chance MX in Amazon, you can find the cricket flour, and they have like this cookbook where you have all the recipes with what you need to do if you want to cook at your house with the cricket flour.
In the environmental sustainability, I don't know if this question at the beginning, so probably sorry about that. I guess you've done a study in comparison with a normal flour. Can you give me a little bit of insight?
Sure, I have a slide about that.
Yeah, okay, so if you go already, I mean, what to do? I haven't started right.
No, that's okay, I will summarize it. So yeah, so in 2013, the Food and Agriculture Organization published a forestry paper about the environmental impact of producing crickets. Long story short, producing the same amount of protein from crickets and from cows requires only 4% of the natural resources. That was in 2013, but the research kept growing. And the last year in the Nature journal, there was this report of metadata analysis where they were comparing what will happen if we switch to crickets or if we switch to a vegan style diet. So the vegan style diet has a 75% reduction of climate change potential, water use, and land use. And the insect-based diet has an 80% potential. And this is not to put them to compete, it's just to show that they are a good complement to shape our food system towards sustainability. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you because I think it's a good project, but also because I think it's a really, really good example about how the different kind of subjects we can create something. Because here in this university, we are trying to educate our students with general education. And that is what I consider you have here. Because you're not just talking about a business project, you are also talking about science. And I really, really like because you really know the science behind the product. And you are in touch with scientists, and you know the research, and you know how it's working with the I don't know anything about it. But you also know how are learning how to do the business. So I think it's a really, really good example to our students that if you are in the business area, for example, it's not like you are also need to keep in the business area. You need to look for everything around the world. And I really like your project because of that, because you are using different things. You are using science, but you are using business, but you are being resilient because you receive some different comments when you are studying this. And I really like it. So I just want to go like you and your followers.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for talk. I wanted to ask regarding the maximum and minimum words I use that, maybe related to the artificial intelligence. I would like to know if you are using what kind of tools of artificial intelligence are you using? you develop the tools, I understand that you made the research with the so are you using artificial intelligence that is free of source, that kind of things?
Yeah, so it's very basic at the moment. We use open source and free tools. And so basically, we're using the OpenAI APIs to train them with data like scientific data and market data, and also the data from consumers, like they like this type of product, they don't. We put a lot of data into the database, and then we just ask the AI to formulate food. And then when the AI like formulates a product, we turn it into reality in the lab. We create the product and we put it to test with consumers and also like some nutritional assessments. And if it works, like if consumers like it, we give feedback to the AI. So the AI was like, okay, I did it well. But if it doesn't work, consumers don't like it, we also give that feedback to the AI system, and it knows that it should change something with all the data it has already as an input, and with this new input that we are putting, and it will create a different alternative. And that's what we are doing. And we are very lucky because this type of system was firstly developed by a company called Notco from Chile, and they did it like in-house. They did all the coding. They named their AI Giuseppe. But that cost them, I'm not kidding, like $100 million. Like developing the system by themselves. But then OpenAI came with these like open source tools, and we can now have a very similar technology with very little investment. And that's a clear example of why the innovation is in the purpose and not only in the technology that you are developing.
And we'll clap one more time. Good.